Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Hello friends, welcome to Lukman IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 30th June 2021. Let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important developments. We have segregated them for men's related syllabus as well as prelims related syllabus. Let us take overview of all these articles first and then we will discuss them one by one in detail. First article, apt judicial reminder in the era of over-criminalization. So, from polity and governance perspective, GS2 paper, the article is discussing the need of reforms in criminal justice system in India, and the context is recently Delhi High Court has given bail to 3 different student activists in CAA case or Delhi riots case in 2020, right. So, the context is that one, and the article is analyzing or giving very good arguments for such kind of need of changes or reforms in criminal justice system in India. So, this is important from GS2 paper polity and governance part. Next, flying terror. The context of this particular editorial on page number 6, it is talking about recent drone attack that happened in Indian Air Force base in Jammu along border with Pakistan. Right. So, the new or emerging trends in the terrorism acts with use of technology, how it brings new challenges towards border management, effective border management as well as tackling the terrorism. So, all these aspects from GS3 paper security part we will discuss this. Next, one of the study of Geological Survey of India has found the reason behind the Chamoli disaster, and it is said that it happened due to snow avalanche and not due to glacial lake outburst flood. Okay, so we will discuss that from GS1 paper geography part. Okay, so different natural hazards as well as we need to also understand the changes that are being brought because of climate change and changes due to global warming also that are happening, these changes that are happening in the Himalayan region. Next, Indians value religious freedom, not integration. So, recently one of the nationwide survey was conducted by one of the non-profit organization, US based non-profit organization. The data and facts outcome of that survey we have to understand and use that for some of the men's papers, GS1 paper, society part, also ethics paper as well as it can be used in essay paper. Specifically for prelims examination, OPEC risk forcing India to tap Iran for oil if prices stay high. Okay, one of the statement by Union Minister, it is talking about we have exhausted our strategic petroleum reserves and therefore already the petroleum prices have crossed 100 rupees per liter petrol prices, and therefore the prices needs to be stabilized in recent future, or we can say near future. There will be OPEC summit meeting is going to happen, and in that meeting the new prices, or we can say the supply of oil, crude oil is going to be decided, and therefore the recent statement by our Union Minister. Now, we need to understand the basics about this international organization OPEC. Okay. So, Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC country, what is this, when it was formed, which are the members and the publication of this OPEC organization. Lastly, some COVID-19 related developments at national and international stage and practice prelims MCQs on daily current affairs. Now, let us go into details of all these articles. First, apt judicial reminder in era of over-criminalization. The context here is that recently Delhi High Court had given granted bail to 3 student activists in Delhi riots case. The context is that these 3 student activists were charged under UPA Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Okay, so under this act actually the terrorism activities are prevented. Okay, so we have to understand the misuse of anti-terrorism laws like earlier TADA, POTA and now UPA Act is continuously going on. We have to understand some facts here. You can remember these facts. For example, between 2015 to 2019, around 7,840 people were charged under UPA Act, different sections of UPA Act, and out of these many people, only 155 were convicted by trial courts, and remaining somehow many of them got acquitted by the higher courts. So you can see the conviction rate is very low, though the law enforcement agencies continuously charge people under these stringent provisions of UPA. However, the conviction rate is very low. To some extent, we can say the misuse of this anti-terrorism law is at higher rate. You need to mention this fact in supporting your argument. Now, we have to understand that there is one statement, very good statement: any punishment, or we can say every punishment which is given out of lack of absolute necessity is tyrannical. Now, this statement is given by French jurist and philosopher Montesquieu. You can mention such kind of statements in ethics paper, essay paper, right? So you should be aware about the such captions, quotations. They can be used in your answers, mains examination answer. That means every punishment which is given out of lack of absolute necessity. When there is no absolute necessity, such kind of punishment is actually tyrannical. That means what happens in this anti-terrorism laws, basically the laws are being perceived as power, or we can say the criminal justice system is being considered as power rather than justice. Very good argument given by the writer here. Criminal justice system in India is largely considered as power rather than the tool to deliver justice. Now we have to understand the problems involved here, that there is no consensus on definition of terrorism. We know that neither TADA nor UPA defines terrorism. Okay, there is no clear definition and lack of universal definition. So there is no consensus on definition of terrorism at national as well as international level, international organization. Different definitions of terrorism are given by different organizations, be it United Nations or if we are talking about many such judicial pronouncement by even apex court in India, different interpretations have been done. Now, if we are talking about section 15 of UPA, this act, it talks about the act of terrorism or defines act of terrorism. Okay, and it is very vaguely defined. Vaguely defined. Okay, so any such act of violence that threatens security of state, peace in the country. Okay, so such kind of vague words are used in this section 15. You need to mention this section 15 of UPA, which is largely invoked against many such activists, or we can say that protesters against the government. So, whether such section should be invoked against the students, activists, or those who are critic to the government policies, right? So, this is the question at present, and we have to understand now this argument or this premise against the judicial interpretations. Different judicial interpretations have been done. Let me give you some examples. First example you can give of Yaqub Menon case 2013, where Supreme Court categorized various acts of terrorism. For example, assassination, bomb blasts, biological weapons, chemical weapons, use of grenades, all these are acts of terrorism and specifically mentioned in this judgment. And Delhi High Court, in this particular judgment of student activists, found that there is no such act that was done by these student activists, and therefore said that, or that's why they have been given the bail in this case. Second thing you need to be aware about one more judgment, Hitendra Thakur case. Hitendra Thakur case 1994. Yes, year is also important. Hitendra Thakur case 1994. In this, Supreme Court has explained distinction between normal violent acts and terrorism. There can be normal violent acts because of different reasons, and the violence involving terrorism. There is a let's say fine difference between these two acts, because in terrorism there is a deliberate attempt of coercive intimidation. Deliberate attempt of coercive intimidation. This is specific to terrorism acts, okay, and this is different from general violent acts. Such kind of distinction has been already made in this case by Supreme Court, Hitendra Thakur case 1994. Along with these two, let me give you the third case also, Ram Manohar Lohia case 1966. It dates back to 1966. In this, the apex court or Supreme Court has said that there is distinction between security of state, public order, and law and order. These terms are different from each other. These terms are different from each other and they can be categorized or shown through this diagram, Venn diagram. How? An act which is disturbing law and order situation may not be resulting into public order situation or threat to security of state. Law and order situation is very wider concept, right? Narrower than the law and order is public order, and then further narrower concept is security of state. So any act which results into threat to security of state should be narrowly interpreted, right? So this is very important. You need to mention in your answer Ram Manohar Lohia case 1966. Supreme Court has made distinction between these three threats, okay, and therefore law enforcement agencies need to understand the differences between these three. There at present what is happening under UPA Act, even the cases of law and order situation, public order are being charged under security of state, threat to security of state. Largely terrorism acts let's say relates to security of state, okay, threaten or at max threatening public order, right? So what we have to understand the distinction between these three threats. Fine. At the same time, we have to also understand as a way forward, after understanding this judicial interpretation, a kind of, let's say, radicalization that is happening resulting into terrorism act. This radicalization happens due to real or perceived injustice, real or perceived injustice in the society. Let me give you example. If you are talking about, let's say, Jammu and Kashmir state or that region, what happens is the youth have been exposed to real and perceived injustice that is happening to those people, near and dear ones to these people, and therefore they are very much vulnerable for radicalization in that region. Unless and until we remove such kind of real and perceived injustice from the society and ensure egalitarian and just society, we cannot tackle this terrorism effectively. And therefore, a very good statement as a way forward can be given: creation of truly just, egalitarian and non-oppressive society would be far more effective in combating terrorism, right? This is how we need to understand justice can be ensured effectively when there is a very effective criminal justice system. That's why we are talking about reforms that are needed in criminal justice system. The context here is specifically of terrorism acts. Fine. So such kind of directly statement can be given, comment, and in this part you have to understand how this radicalization is resulting because of real and perceived injustice in the country. And you can give the examples of UPA Act, misuse of UPA Act, mention the facts in just now we talked about the misuse of anti-terrorism laws. Fine? Okay. Now moving on to next article, flying terror. The context of this particular editorial is recent drone attack on Indian Air Force establishment in Jammu. Okay, and though there were no casualties, immediately there were, let's say, 2 more drone attacks on different armed forces establishment in Jammu. This shows that the new and emerging mode of terrorism, use of drones or broader manner unmanned aerial vehicles, full form unmanned aerial vehicles, or we can say remote controlled systems, robot, use of robots, all these are now emerging mode of terrorism. Emerging mode of terrorism. Okay, so such kind of attacks in recent past at world level, if we are talking about, let's say, Syrian rebels in 2018 used drones against Russian army, Russian establishment. Houthi rebels of Yemen in 2019 use drones for attacking Saudi Arabian oil establishments. In 2019, Venezuelan president was attacked by drone which exploded very near to him. He escaped that kind of attack. So such kind of recent attacks, you should be aware about how terrorist attacks are being carried out by terrorist outfits all over the world. And now India is let's say also facing similar kind of attacks. Problems to deal with these drone attacks. Let us try to understand the nature of these drone attacks. Okay, so drone or UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. Basically, first thing is that very difficult to locate the terrorists who are carrying out this attack. Okay, because they are remotely located, they can be located in the country or outside the country, along the border also, right? So difficult to locate the terrorists, easy to carry out such attack efficiently. Efficiently, that means the targets are efficiently targeted through this technology. Third thing is that no need of terrorism or terrorist organizations. That means an individual with technological know-how can carry out such kind of attacks. Okay, so no need of support by any terrorist organization for carrying out such attacks. This is again the problematic thing. And lastly, we can say that the traditional mechanisms to deal with terrorism of armed forces become less useful to deal with such kind of attacks. Okay, so this is how the nature of drone attacks, it is being difficult to deal with this situation, right? At the same time, you can mention that drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, they are allowed for civilian use. They are allowed for civilian use. It is very difficult to identify which particular drone or UAV is for civilian use, which can be again used for as terrorist activities. Fine. So you can mention these points here. Now, existing international framework for controlling the proliferation of technology is less useful. Which is this existing framework? For example, Wassenaar Arrangement, MTCR group. What is MTCR? Missile Technology Control Regime Okay, there are four important international frameworks dealing with these technological aspects. Okay, so Wassenaar Arrangement, MTCR, Australia Group is there, and NSG, Nuclear Supplier Group. Okay, Nuclear Supply Group. So India is member of Australia Group, Wassenaar Arrangement, MTCR, but not NSG yet, Nuclear Supplier Group. Right. So these are less effective to deal with such kind of technology proliferation that is happening at world level, resulting into terrorist act. Now, changing nature of terrorism and attacks. So we have seen such kind of changing nature of terrorism and such kind of attacks. If we are talking about 2008 Mumbai attacks, right, so wherein the terrorist entered into the territory through sea route, right, so that again changed the nature of terrorist attacks. Earlier such kind of, let's say, attacks were not carried out. Along with that, the other is lone wolf attacks. Again, this is changing nature of attacks. And recent one is now use of drones, UAVs, sorry, right. So technology is going to become a major mainstay for such kind of attacks, and these attacks can be by state sponsored or state acts and by non-state actors also. Fine. So this changing nature of terrorism, we need to understand as a way forward how to deal with them. First of all, we have to equip armed forces with new technologies. For that matter, material resources, along with training of human resource in use of these technology. How to neutralize these drone attacks or UAV attacks? This should be trained to armed forces and other law enforcement agencies also. Along with that, second is international cooperation is required. As we can understand, these attacks can be carried out by remaining or from the foreign soil by state as well as non-state actors. That's why a stricter regime is required at international level. So international cooperation is required, and yes, UN can be such platform. Convention on Terrorism that is proposed by India at UN, it is still not finalized and signed yet, right? So open for sign. So this is very important platform, and now we can understand India is having 2-year membership in 2021 and 2022 for UN Security Council, non-permanent member of UN Security Council. So India can further rally countries for this cause, international cooperation in dealing with the proliferation of technology especially. So stricter regime is required and international cooperation is required. So yes, you can mention such kind of way forward. This is very important. Along with this, we can mention the effective border management. So this is very important because what is happening is already drones and UAVs are being used to smuggle the arms, drugs across the border. Okay, so in 2019 and 2020, last 2 years, such kind of instances have increased. So border management forces, they need to be trained in dealing with such kind of new and emerging threats. Fine. So you can mention that what kind of question we are expecting. New emerging modes of terrorism threaten security of India. In this respect, what measures should be taken to effectively neutralize these attacks? So you can mention the way forward, you can explain first of all what are these emerging modes of terrorism. Fine? Okay. Now moving on, Chamoli disaster due to avalanche. One of the report by scientists, geologists at Geological Survey of India has found the reason behind the flash flood on February 7th in Chamoli district and resulting into debris flow. This is actually due to large mass of snow, ice and rock avalanche along with hanging mass of rock crashing into Rauntigar valley floor. This is the reason. So actually what happened is, due to large volume of debris and deluge, an artificial dam had formed near the confluence of Rautighar and Rishiganga river by flowing of debris which blocked the flow of Rishiganga river and formed a small lake temporarily. Okay, so this was not glacial lake outburst flood. There is no evidence of GLOF having causing this event. So yes, in February we discussed in detail in the Hindu analysis about such kind of instances that are happening in Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand in recent years have become the center stage of many such natural hazards and disasters happening. So Uttarakhand disaster, flash floods 2013, which claimed many lives. So such kind of events are happening this year. In 2021 February, this avalanche happened and many people gone missing, died. These workers, they were working in these power plants, Rishiganga power plants and Tapovan Vishnugad Hydel power project, right. So we have to understand the reasons behind increasing instances of natural hazards, especially in Uttarakhand state. So from that aspect, the question can be asked specifically here by stating the name of the state, Uttarakhand state. Okay, so yes, surely we can understand the fragile nature of geology of Himalayas in Uttarakhand and the developmental projects, especially large hydroelectric power plants that are being built in Uttarakhand in last 3 to 4 decades. Building of large dams, as we can understand, it changes the ecology of river flow, river regimes and the kind of debris that is brought through the erosion by these rivers. This is adding more pressure on these dams and therefore further adding more chances or probability of such kind of floods, flash floods happening in that region, right. So more and in way forward you can mention about the ecotourism activities, small runoff river projects for hydroelectricity, and we can say sustainable development. The road infrastructure and other such infrastructure projects, they should be having minimal impact on the ecology of the region. Okay, so yes, from time to time we will discuss whenever the article is appearing regarding this particular issue. Fine. Moving on, next, Indians value religious freedom, not integration. This is the nationwide survey that was done by Pew Research Center, non-profit based organization in Washington DC, USA. Now outcome of this is that yes, most Indians cutting across religions feel they enjoy religious freedom in India, value religious tolerance and regard respect for all religions as central to what India is as nation. That means they adhere and value traditional ethos of India. Okay, the tolerance, right, tolerance towards different religions. So this is good thing. However, the other important thing that was found is majority in all faiths scored poorly on metrics of religious segregation, that is composition of friends circle, views on stopping interreligious marriages, willingness to accept people of other religion as neighbors. So to some extent this is a different scenario. Okay. So yes, some facts are mentioned, you can mention these facts, but very difficult to remember. Just you can say that a nationwide survey by such non-profit organization, on one side Indians value religious tolerance, on other side religious segregation is important part of Indian society. Okay, you can mention about interreligious marriages, how still they are, let's say, not accepted by all faiths or religious communities. Along with that, the friends circle largely belonging to similar religion. Along with that, the willingness to accept people from other community as their neighbors is less. This is how this nationwide survey and its outcome is there. You can mention this in GS1 society part, right, or GS4 paper ethics part, along with that essay paper also. Fine? Okay. Moving on. OPEC risk forcing India to tap Iran for oil if prices stay high. This is the statement by Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Okay, so already we are seeing the surging of oil prices in the country, and there is going to be a meeting of OPEC countries on 1st July and India has, let's say, been pressurizing, persuading oil exporting countries to moderate surging oil prices and warned that high prices would push India to tap alternative import sources like Iran if the sanctions by US are removed. So this is in news. We need to understand the basics about Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC grouping. Every year there is question being asked on the international organizations, one or two questions. For example, last year prelims examination there was question on G20, quite difficult. Directly the members of G20 were asked. So that's why we need to be aware about the members of other such important groupings, international groupings, regional groupings. So this is intergovernmental organization of 13 countries. Which are these 13 countries? Algeria, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Nigeria, right, Republic of Congo, Saudi Arabia, which is de facto the leader of this organization, UAE and Venezuela. These are the present members. Okay. The former OPEC members were Ecuador, Indonesia and Qatar. They have let's say resigned from the membership. Qatar left OPEC in 2019 and Ecuador left OPEC recently in 2020. Fine. So this is the situation. This organization was formed in 1960 in Baghdad by 5 founding members: Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. These are the founding members. You should be aware that these 13 countries have around 80% of crude hydrocarbon reserves or crude oil reserves, and at present the production is around 40%. They are contributing to 40% of world crude oil production all over the world. Okay, so basically this OPEC grouping, international organization, intergovernmental organization, is for checking on the prices of crude oil in the world market. Whenever there is increase in supply of crude oil, there will be decline in oil prices, and therefore these countries will benefit less or get revenue less, and therefore what they will do is cut the supply of crude oil in international market. Automatically there will be rise in the prices of crude oil, there will be more revenue. So such kind of balance is done by these OPEC countries. This is the focus of these countries. Along with that, recently in 2016 a larger group called OPEC plus 10 additional oil exporting countries led by Russia together with OPEC 13 countries, they decides on the supply of crude oil. Since 2007, the flagship publication World Oil Outlook is released on annual basis by OPEC organization, and its headquarter is located in Vienna, Austria, though we can understand Austria is not OPEC member state, but headquarter is located in Vienna, Austria. Fine. Okay, this much information is sufficient. Now COVID-19 related development. Recently, the drug regulator of the country, Drugs Controller General of India, granted permission to Mumbai based pharma major Cipla to import Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine, making it the fourth vaccine in the country to be given emergency use authorization. Okay, Moderna is the fourth such vaccine. Earlier, three vaccines. Which are the three vaccines? Yes, AstraZeneca vaccine being produced by Serum Institute of India, that is Covishield, then Covaxin by Bharat Biotech, and Sputnik V vaccine. This is being imported from Russia, right? India is also in talks with Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson to be added to the vaccines available. Moderna's vaccine can be stored for a period of 7 months at prescribed temperature, and normal storage above the vial open is 30 days. It has shown the efficacy of approximately 94.1% in protecting against COVID-19 starting 14 days after the first dose. So, one of the most efficient vaccine in the world at present is Moderna. We can understand this is developed in US, this company is based in US. Now, based on the evidence collected so far, new variants of COVID-19 do not alter the effectiveness of the vaccine, this Moderna vaccine. So, okay, so this is good development. Another development is that recently Supreme Court has asked the government, central government, to give the dry ration to workers in the country. In this manner, the government cannot abdicate its duties to feed migrant workers, especially during the pandemic, merely because they did not have ration cards. Along with that, it ordered all states to fully implement one nation, one ration card scheme by 31st July. Okay, so at national level, this is the development related to COVID-19 pandemic. Now, practice prelims MCQ. Try to solve this MCQ. Let me give you some time to solve this. Okay, so three statements are given about OPEC organization. We have to find the correct statements. First statement, it is intergovernmental organization of 13 important oil exporting countries. This is correct. You should be aware about the total membership at present 13. Its headquarter is located in Basel, Switzerland. No, this is incorrect. Its headquarter is located in Vienna, Austria. You can get confused because many such headquarters are located in Basel also, right? So, you should be aware specifically about the headquarters of different international organizations. Next, World Oil Outlook is annual publication of OPEC. This is also correct statement. So, that is why 1 and 3 only, that is option C is the correct option here. Fine? Okay. So, yes, these were important developments from today's The Hindu newspaper. Try to take input for both prelims as well as mains examination, make small notes and try to revise them. For further information about the foundation batch at Lukman IAS for 2022 examination, those students who are starting this preparation of this examination for the first time, exploring the career opportunities in civil services and just completed their graduation, For those students, this foundation batch is apt course to start their preparation thoroughly. So to know more about this particular course, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.